Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and today we're on Main Street, USA in the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. Jim and I are going to be walking through all of Main Street today. We're going to be talking about what's going on. You can see Christmas decorations behind us. We're also going to be talking about what's happened in the parks recently and what's going to happen in the future. So come on along and join us. You'll see lots of interesting things at Main Street and around the park. Here we go. Jim, so we're in the Magic Kingdom. We are on Main Street, USA. Things are looking good here. Tell me what's been going on lately on Main Street, USA.
One of the more interesting aspects is what's actually been postponed. If we look just to the left here, had things gone according to plan, we'd already see steel going up for the Main Street Theater, which Bob Chapek announced at the D23 Expo just last year. And this was going to be in place in time for the 50th anniversary for Giant Entertainment. And unfortunately, that project has been pushed back. Take a look. You can see the yellow thing in the track there.
The yellow and the track, or the
right
faded
there.
yellow paint right there.
Okay,
all right.
Literally, there is a cast member whose job is to go through every morning and grease the track for the trolley.
And we'll see the trolley too coming up.
There we go. But yes, that project has not been canceled. It's just been postponed. It's been pushed back. Beyond the 50th anniversary, we will eventually see a live theater venue with seating for 2,000 people.
This is back over that way.
Yeah, it's actually going to be built out behind Main Street in Tomorrowland. The blow-through walkway that you see used for Mickey's Very Merry and Mickey's Not So Scary will be, at that point, formally turned into a really for real street. Okay. And hopefully that'll make life that much easier for parades and that sort of thing.
What do you make of the change to Tony's Town Square as an additional upcharge event during the Christmas parties?
We were in here the other evening. My friend Drew Taylor went and checked it out. And the hard reality is the modern Walt Disney World Resort is constantly looking for new revenue streams. And this is one of those new revenue streams. It's not necessarily going to damage the guest experience,
but it's a chance to make more money with minimal disruption.
That's it exactly. So, and speaking of minimal disruption, if we want to turn back to actual Main Street here for a moment.
All right, let's look down Main Street, USA real quick.
Okay, take a look at the way they're handling the wreaths now.
Oh, the wreaths.
Yeah, particularly the wreaths that are hung from on high. We have arms.
On high, like they're coming down from heaven. All right.
But please notice that these wreaths are being now hung from an arm that sticks out over the roadway.
Right. It's not the string of lights that it used to be across Main Street.
And there's two reasons for that. One of the big reasons is that you don't get that line of wreaths that are disrupting the image of the castle, which makes it that much harder to sell that souvenir photo.
Ah, yes.
And the other reason entertainment asked them to do this is that they don't have to restrict the height of a float.
Oh, right. So because they're going to, I've heard they're bringing back the Maleficent Dragon float as well for the parades.
Yeah, she'll only be blowing bubbles at this point, but what the hell?
Right,
anyway.
All right, Jim, let's walk over to the fire station.
Sure.
It's been a couple of years since Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom has debuted. Mm-hmm. What does Disney make of it now? And what's going to happen in the future?
It's interesting to me that, yes, they have, in fact, continued the program. You know, for example, they use an opportunity to create a new card which is introduced, at Mickey's Not So Scary and Mickey's Very Merry. But beyond that, it's just on life support. There haven't been
any new developments on it. They haven't added any new games, anything like that.
Think about it. Wouldn't it have been a natural... Where's the Ralph Breaks the Internet card? The obvious tie-in to promotional tie-ins. And this is Disney. I mean, you can't go into a hotel room here at the resort without me reminding about, oh, by the way, Mary Poppins Returns is coming out.
I think Disney realizes that the lead time needed for software development is now longer than they could anticipate. So it's not easy enough for them to change the software.
It's done its job. In fact, oh look, somebody has dropped it.
Jim is picking up a Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom card that has fallen. Jim, this could be worth $1 million.
Well, actually, it probably is, Len. It's the Orange Bird.
Oh, it's the Orange Bird. Well, Jim's retirement plan is set now.
Okay, here we go, folks. Yes.
All right. Let's go through some of the Main Street shop windows. So these are animated now. It's sort of like Macy's Day, but on Main Street. It's Mickey's Christmas Carol.
And these windows actually, Len, were created for the 1983 release of this featurette.
Really?
So yeah, you know, in fact, you can kind of tell by the rudimentary animation. But yeah, Disney pulls them out every year, puts them in storage, repaints them, and then brings them out yet again.
Fantastic.
And you know, again, in a weird sort of way, people, you know, if they're not there, people miss them.
That's one of the things that people look for.
That's
interesting. Have you noticed that in the last week, My Disney Experience started making location-based promotions?
Have you noticed?
So Laurel was in the Magic Kingdom yesterday, and then yesterday afternoon when she was home at the apartment, she got a text saying My Disney Experience alert saying, by the way, there are still tickets available for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party tonight.
Well, and it's fascinating to say that because my sister-in-law, Kathy Moore, we're down here at Disney, having just done that fine-tuning event. And, you know, so it's just sort of like, oh, while you're there, you know, get me this item, get me that item. And literally the middle of Sunday afternoon, it's like, don't do anything because I just went to, you know, Shop Disney online and the very same items were available, but for 25% off.
They know, Jim, they know.
It's just nuts. So we should acknowledge we are, you know, the white hot center of the changes that have been made on Main Street. We are looking at
the white hot center of Main Street, USA is Starbucks.
There we go. I mean, you know, I know there were so many purists who were upset about it, but, you know, look at that, Len. The line's out the door.
The line's out the door. It gets from turningplanes.com readers, it's above 90% satisfaction ratings. In some parks, like Hollywood Studios, it's literally the highest rated quick service restaurant in the park. Making money hand over fist. Like, we wish we had shovels that big, Jim.
And the interesting thing, if you get to notice the two cast members standing by the door, one of them is holding a Mickey-shaped cinnamon bun that's been drizzled with red and green sugar. And
it's festive diabetes.
Well, that's it exactly. You know, but you know, suggestive selling. It worked. Boy, did it work.
Boy, did it work.
So.
What do you make of the changes that Disney's introduced for better viewing of the nighttime fireworks shows? So I'm talking specifically about this garden area that we're coming up to on the left.
Well, let's be honest. Remember when this was supposed to be fast pass driven and you'd reserve in advance? And
yeah, that lasted, what, 6 months, a year?
If that.
If that.
Now, mind you, this does work, but just not in the way I think Disney had anticipated. By creating these sort of concentric groups of circles. In fact, you know, for those of you from the New England area, you know, the notion of how 128 and 495 circled Boston and allow you...
It's the ring road.
Yes, that's it exactly. They've created it in a weird sort of way. It makes it that much easier when there's a parade. Or, for example, this past weekend, when they were shooting the first of 3, God help us, holiday specials here, you were able to get around through this area. Where in years previous, you know, they would have just waved you somewhere else.
Right. I remember when Disney was filming the Christmas parade in years past, they would basically shuttle you through either the shops on the other side or through a very narrow walkway on one of the sidewalks. But everything else was going to be was taken up by a pen of parade people. Yeah.
But yeah, it was fascinating to be in here on Saturday night where they had the temporary stage set up in front of the castle, and they were doing all sorts of special lighting treatments. And, you know, in fact, they were warning cast members because they were shooting fireworks that look good on television as opposed to fireworks that look good for the guests. They were going to close the perimeter road around the park.
Oh, that's right. So that was the we saw the warnings. It was the 8th, 9th, and 12th.
There we go. But yeah, just be aware, folks, for the next 2 and 3 weeks, there will be different production companies. In fact, what was fascinating, they directed us out backstage on Saturday night, and out behind Main Street, U.S.A., between Tomorrowland, they had set up this giant temporary catering tent that was, again, filled with people just like Len and I today who were wearing black. Because you know, they're the ones who scurry around who make the talent from Freeform look good.
Exactly. All right, Jim, one last thing before we finish up with Main Street. Any plans to do any changes at Crystal Palace?
For a time, this was quite seriously considered for the Club 33 for the park. In fact, A friend of mine who's been a long-time waiter here came in one morning, and it was just sort of like there were all sorts of executives with all sorts of measuring tapes. To be honest, what drove the bus on that was one-of-the-kind fireworks viewing. And they realized that they really couldn't take this away from families who had been going there forever.
Right.
So they defaulted over to just the edge of Adventureland. In fact, at this point, they basically completed the building, haven't they?
Right, you can barely see the outline of it from there.
Okay, but no, for now, the Crystal Palace is safe. There have been some discussions about whether or not they want to continue to do Winnie the Pooh as the character there.
Oh, really? What character would they put in?
Christopher Robin came out this summer and didn't quite do the business that Disney thought, and the argument is that, yes, there was a point where Mickey and Winnie the Pooh were basically tied for retail. And now it's kind of a different world. The princesses are doing ridiculously well. Likewise, Marvel, but of course, Marvel is problematic because of that master licensing agreement with Universal. So, there have been some discussions about should we maybe look at different characters for here. Just across the way in Fantasyland now, right next door to the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, there's a dedicated character meet and greet and photo op. So the other issue is, frankly, Pooh's kind of fat. And, so when he's walking through the restaurant, it's one of these things, we get a slimmer character in here and make it easier for him to get between tables.
All right, Jim, let's continue on into Adventureland then. We're going to wrap up this particular show. The next show will be on Adventureland. How do you feel about walking that way?
Ooh, let's go.
All right, folks, you've been listening to the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. Please go onto iTunes and Stitcher or YouTube and rate this show and tell us what you would like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you in Adventureland.